This is an iPod. Some of you might know what this is, some of you probably don't. This version came out in 2008. I obviously couldn't notice it at the time, but something about that period feels like the beginning of the current era. Things started to feel faster, more efficient, more connected, and somehow a bit more distracting. So initially I wanted to talk about that. This video was supposed to be about technology and anxieties that are caused by it. But then, as I was writing the script, I didn't really like the sound of my voice. There wasn't me talking. So I decided to look in the different direction. And it somehow turned into a long-winded way of explaining a very simple thing, which I guess is the whole point of making this video in the first place. People who have small kids probably know this. You can spend an entire day cleaning your apartment. You put everything back where it belongs. Make it look almost intentional. And then within about 20 minutes, everything slowly returns to its natural state, which is in our case, chaos, or just how it normally is. So if I want to film something, I have to time it. Wait for a moment when it's quiet, when things look reasonably acceptable, maybe even change out of pajamas, pretend to be a more put-together version of myself, at least from one angle. I'm not entirely sure why, but I think it has something to do with the fact that someone might be watching. It's like watching a movie. At home, you sit however you want, pause it, check your phone, get distracted. In a cinema, you sit a bit straighter, you are quieter. You try not to make too much noise, especially for the people sitting next to you. Same movie, different behavior. I started noticing something similar with music. Every now and then I wake up in a strange mood. You know, that kind where you don't really know where it came from, maybe a dream you don't remember. And then your mind just starts going somewhere else. People, places, things you didn't really plan to think about. And there's a very specific track you want to hear. So I open the streaming app, and then I pause, just for a second, because I know that if I play it, it's going to change everything around it. The recommendations, the suggestions. It's like a kid that is allowed 2 candies today as an exception to the 1 candy on Sunday rule. Do it just once and watch what happens. Suddenly, I'm a different kind of listener. Apparently. Which is a bit ridiculous, I know that. You can always ignore things, you can always skip. It's not a big deal. But the pause is still there. And that's the strange part, because no one is actually watching. But it feels like they are. And I think that's where this comes in. The iPod doesn't really care what you listen to. It just plays what's on it. And there is something different about that. About having something instead of just accessing it. You can go to a gallery and look at the painting. You might even really like it. But it's not the same as having it on your wall. Seeing it every day. Living with it a bit. I think music works in a similar way. Sometimes the album doesn't make sense the first time you hear it. It needs a bit of time. Sometimes it takes a second, a third listen. And I feel like I lose that more often now. So I've been going back to the things I already have. Old albums. Things I added a long time ago and forgot about. Just going through it slowly. It feels a bit like going through old shelves in a thrift store. You don't really know what you'll find, even though it's technically yours. But when something clicks, it stays with you a bit longer. And sometimes I'll add new things, but that's not really the point. It all ends up loaded onto this device. It is a slower process, but I think that's part of it. You spend a bit more time with the music, you don't move on as quickly. And maybe that's all this is. Not really about technology, just small ways in which it changes how you behave. Because with this, I don't really think about it. I just press play. There's no pause, no adjustment, no sense that I'm being observed. I can listen to whatever I want, and it doesn't really matter. It's just mine, I guess. Wanted to talk about something else. A few years ago, my brother presented me with this thing, which is Miu Mini. I think that's how you pronounce it. This small thing can run really old games. I used it for that. As I was doing the research about music trackers, I realized that this thing can be turned into a somewhat decent tracker device. So I tried that, and I kind of liked it. The tracker that I used is called Little Piggy Tracker. It is quite limited. It has 8 tracks only. It doesn't have reverb, at least not on this device. I loaded a bunch of samples and I played with it, and I kind of liked the whole thing because it was refreshing. I'll try to incorporate this thing into my videos. There were a few tracks that I already worked on. I will just upload them to Bandcamp. I named the project Octopi Escape. Just a little update. I thought I should mention it in case you guys see it in the future videos or maybe in shorts and do not understand what's going on. So there it is. I invite you to follow me in this process of using a very old and limited technology in the world where music can be done with the press of a button.